Pues hola, clase de español 3. Casi estamos terminados, ¿no? Almost finished up for the year. That's kind of a fun thing, but at the same time, always a little bittersweet, right? Hey, we're in the second to last official, what would normally be chapter of the year. This might actually be the end of ours, depending on which year you're watching this. But it'll probably surprise you to know that we're going to continue talking about subjunctive triggers. Granted, we will have some new vocabulary as well, but it just seems like we've been doing those subjunctive triggers forever. There will be a little bit of indicative work to remind you that even though it's not like every time you see a word structure like the type you're about to see, that you'll always have subjunctive mode afterwards. There's a couple of them that are exceptions to the rule, and I'll show those to you in one of the slides in a moment. But anyways, since we're kind of winding down and getting more toward the end of the year and your learning material for this year, I'll try to keep it brief. Let's go ahead and get after it right now, okay? So, 10-1, here we go. And there it is, subjunctive after certain conjunctions, okay? When we talk about conjunction, we're talking about some sort of short phrase at the beginning of the sentence, like, unless this happens, or before this happens, or provided you do this, I'll do this, or in case this happens, we'll do this. So those are some of the English examples of some conjunctions. So for a menos que, which is unless, antes de que, which would be similar to before, con tal de que is provided, en caso de que, of course, in case, it looks almost the same. Para que was like so, or because of, or in order that. And these are all just some simple, quick conjunctions that if you begin your sentence with them and you're trying to use that sort of structure, you know that your next verb is definitely going to be using the subjunctive mode. Let me show you a couple more examples there. Okay, so here we go. Here's one that shows a conjunction that refers to a future action and subjunctive right afterwards. So, cuando vayas a Madrid, tienes que ir a los museos. Okay, so this is when you go to Madrid, you have to go to the museums. Incidentally, last time I was in Madrid just a couple years ago, I did go to the museums, but I digress. Vayas would be the subjunctive in that situation. Next one. En cuanto llegues a casa, llámame. So whenever you get home, call me. Okay. So the whenever it sort of introduces a little bit of doubt into, because we don't know exactly when you will go. So whenever you get home, call me. So that's why the verb llegar, which is to arrive, has that G-U-E-S at the end, the llegues as opposed to llegas. So there it is. Okay. Rule number 3, regarding some more subjunctive triggers, some other conjunctions that can take the subjunctive afterwards if they refer to the future. Okay. Sometimes they'll even introduce a new subject into the sentence. So these are phrases like after, until, or as soon as. Their Spanish equivalent, of course, después de que, hasta que, and tan pronto como. So just a few more examples there. Let's go ahead and take a look at maybe an exception to this rule. So if you're going to use one of those conjunctions like cuando or en cuanto or something like that, but it indicates that something has either already happened or kind of usually happens, that's going to be in the indicative mode. So in this case, the first bullet you have, cuando vamos a Chicago, siempre vamos a los museos. Okay? So when we go to Chicago, we always go to the museum. So this one doesn't say like when we go in the future. It's like when we usually go there. And we know that it's a usually. We know that it's either something that has already happened or usually happens because it is in the indicative mode. It tells us that. En cuanto salimos, empezó a llover. All right. So whenever we go out, it starts to rain. Okay. So that's more of just an expression. That's not necessarily true, but en cuanto is that whenever phrase. Salimos is left in the indicative mode because this is something that usually happens, or it indicates it's already happened in the past. So, and then over here, of course, is your preterite tense of empezar, a llover, which is to rain, and there we go. So a few more triggers, a few more examples of when you would use the subjunctive mode. Now, if you think about it, this is sort of an extension, and you can try to wrap your head around this. If it ends up confusing you more than helping you, forget I ever said it. But every one of those triggers, every one of those conjunctions indicated some level of doubt. Whenever you say whenever or provided this happens, that means that it isn't necessarily factual at that time. So the general overarching idea of when we use the subjunctive, when things are just not absolutely concrete, still applies. So these are just some very specific examples of that. Hopefully make that a little bit easier to understand. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of our vocab. Here we go, and there we go. For time purposes, I'll focus more on pronunciation than on meaning. If I see any related words, cognates and such, I'll stop for a moment. But here we go. So talking about accomplishments. Alcancé éxito en, domina el francés, han triunfado, logró superar muchos obstáculos, puse todo mi esfuerzo en, se siente orgulloso de haber, tuvo mucho éxito. So I'll just focus in on a couple of these here that I thought are kind of fun. This is a great one. So when you're looking this up in your book a little bit later, you'll see that it says he or she speaks French very well. But look at the related verbiage here. Domina el francés. They're really saying he or she dominates the French. Okay. Now they don't mean that in any sort of sociological tense. They're just talking of our term. They're just referring to how well they speak it. Okay. Like, wow, you played great in that game. You dominated. In this case, the game is speaking French well. And that is, of course, universally applicable for any language. Moving on. Let's see. Let's look at another one here. See if there's any ones that I thought kind of was interesting. Oh, yeah. Puse todo mi esfuerzo en. I think the literal translation, when you look that up in your book, is going to be I tried really hard at something. But the literal translation I liked is I put all my force into. Okay, I put all my effort into something. So I just like the way that that translates. Let's go ahead and take a look at the next section here, at éxito, which is general Spanish terminology for success. Here we go. Alcanzar, aportar, la aportación. Obviously, this is the noun version of this verb right here, related. El esfuerzo, estar agradecido por, el éxito, el orgullo, el reto, sentirse orgulloso de, superar, superarse, tener éxito. So again, I'll just focus in on a couple specifics on that one here. Kind of like this one right here, aportar and la aportación. This one is to support or contribute. Sorry, this would be the contribution. So you have the verb version of this noun right here. Thought that was good. Now, esfuerzo looks like the word force, like fuerza or fuerza. But in this case, it refers to effort. El esfuerzo usually translates as the word effort. Let's see. Oh, a couple related words here. El orgullo is pride, but orgulloso is prideful or proud. So you have this. So even though they're both kind of nouns, one functions a little bit more like an adverb here. So orgullo and orgulloso. Proud versus pride. Okay, adjective, adverb, or noun, depending on how you use it. Okay, last couple here is superar and superarse that I liked, because superar by itself is to overcome. Okay, to supersede something, to make it better than. Okay, but superarse, the reflexive form of it, is to improve oneself, to better oneself, to ensuper oneself, if you will. So just a couple ways to help you with that word. Here we go. Talking about future plans, I'm realizing you won't be able to see the bottom, so I'm going to move this whole screen for a moment. There you go. Antes de que empiezan las clases, antes de terminar, cuando cumpla los 8 años, 80 años, cuando sea mayor, después de graduarnos. So in terms of focusing for any of these kind of just have a general versus literal typical kind of difference. You have like antes de que empiecen las clases, which is, we would say before classes. But the literal translation is before of that to begin the classes. So typical literal versus general sort of a thing there. Let's see another one. Cuando cumpla los 8 años. Okay, so when he or she is 18, when he turns 18, when she turns 18. Cuando sea mayor. This one, I think if you look in your book, it's going to say something like, when I'm older. That's like the subjunctive form of that in the yo form. But if you think about it, the yo form and the la and usted forms are all the same. So this could also be when he or she is older, not just when I'm older. Addition to the book there. Después de graduarnos, after graduating or after we graduate, as another expression. Kind of interesting because for some of you, just a year away or less than a year away, and for some of you, only a couple of years away, you'll be using phrases like this because you'll be graduating. Crazy. Okay, that finishes out 10-1. For those of you in future years who might be going on to 10-2 in the following week, great, okay? If this represents our last unit for you in this particular year that you're viewing this, then it was a pleasure. Have a great time this summer. And if I don't see you again, ciao, hasta luego, y adios.